Riders getting ready for our 30 minutes of racing. Men's category 3-4, over 100 riders on the line. As we got our official starter once again back up here, getting ready to be able to play that horn. Like to be able to say, riders ready, timers ready, officials ready. They're going to count you down in 3, 2, 1.
All right, what's up everybody? Welcome back to another race commentary. My name is James Kim. I race for Speed Lab Racing, SLR. That's the team that we started almost 2 years ago now. We are based in the DC, Virginia, Maryland area. And this race is Capital Cup, which is a part of the Armed Forces Cycling Classic weekend. This is the Saturday race. So as far as I know, the past few years, it's only been the Pro 1 race. And they haven't had a race for any of the lower categories. But this year, they decided to open up a race for the 3s and 4s. Which was actually pretty cool. I believe this course is also new, and it actually turned out to be a really fun course. The duration of this race is only 30 minutes, so it's a little bit shorter than a normal crit, which just meant there would probably be very few lulls in the pace. I think we ended up averaging a little bit over 27 miles per hour, which is relatively fast. But yeah, I think our team has 6 guys in this race, and as usual, we are trying to get the best overall team result. Within the past month or so, we picked up a couple collegiate boys from Virginia Tech. Their names are Aiden and Adam. So they are on our team now, which is really, really nice because both of them are pretty strong riders. They are pretty good at racing too. And you'll see a little bit later too, there is a newer guy to the area who previously lived in Canada and was also born in France. His name is Victor, and we had been talking to him for the past couple weeks. And after this race, he actually decided to join our team as well. So we are very, very happy to have Victor on the team as well. So yeah, our team is growing, it's getting stronger. We are continually learning how to race with one another and just having a lot of fun with that. So, all right, Capital Cup. As you watch the footage, the course is pretty wide open. The exits of all the corners are pretty wide. The only challenge that it posed was that sometimes you would have 4 or 5 guys wide going into the corners. And if somebody deviated from their line, then it got a little bit more sketch, but overall, in terms of technicality, maybe medium level. I don't even really know how to describe the course map. There's a triangle at the top and a triangle at the bottom, and there's a straightaway between both of those. So there was some wind today, wind that was strong enough actually to blow over a tent. And you'll see a little bit later, the race got neutralized because a tent actually flew out onto the course. Over the barriers, and I think a couple people went down. Colby on our team also went down. Thankfully he was okay, but I did hear that someone maybe broke a collarbone, so I hope whoever that was is resting up and healing. But yeah, that race neutralization happened I think maybe like 8 to 10 minutes into the race, and I'll show you that in a little bit. But going back to the wind was coming from the west, blowing to the east, and the straightaway section of the course is actually in front of the Capitol building, which actually is really cool. It's in front of the reflecting pool. So there were actually a lot of photos that had some of that in the backdrop. Pretty awesome. But yeah, the whole straightaway section was not really sheltered by any buildings at all. So there was somewhat of a crosswind. So that did play a factor. When you were coming down south on the straightaway, the left side of the road was the sheltered side, and then reverse. When you're coming north on the straightaway, the right side was sheltered. For the most part, I took good advantage of that when I could. And you'll see at the end on the finishing straight, I'm able to use that a little bit to my advantage. Oh yeah, let's talk a little bit about the field size. There were 112 people registered for this 3-4 race, which is absolutely huge for our level. I think according to the live results, there might have been like 95 people who ended up lining up. But either way, that's a really large field. Staging-wise, I wasn't able to get near the front, so I was somewhat mid-pack. I knew that I would have to get towards the front, but what ended up happening throughout the race is that I was just kind of surfing wheels. There were multiple times through the race where I saw little gaps opening because people were getting shelled and spit out the back of the front pack. So I was able to manage that decently well, but if I wasn't in that position, I wouldn't have had to deal with it in the first place. So positioning was definitely my mistake. I should have been top 10 wheels or gotten up to the front as soon as possible and then just tried to stay there. But when the field size is huge, especially on a semi-technical course, it's definitely going to be more efficient to be towards the front. And anyone who races, I think we all kind of know that. The last thing I'll say before we hop forward and look at the rest of the race is that, one, I have my voluntary points already for my Cat 2 upgrade, so I don't necessarily need any more. I am pretty much here in this race to help my teammates as much as possible, which, honestly, I didn't really do that much. And again, that goes to me being out of position. But aside from that, the past 2 weeks leading up to this race was probably the least ideal training and recovery that I could have ever asked for. For whatever reason, my wife and I decided to foster a puppy to let our kids get that experience. So I've been waking up 3 to 6 times per night. And if anyone's wondering who let the dog out, it's me. But yeah, that chapter of fostering a puppy is coming to a close. It's bittersweet because we love the puppy, but it has been really, really difficult for my wife and myself. And not only that, the puppy is a healer mix, which means it's a herding dog. So, unfortunately, she nips at our kids. But anyway, I just mentioned that to say that my fitness and form is quite bad at this moment. Alright, like I mentioned before, hopping forward a few minutes, this is the race neutralization. The tent is on the course and they are clearing it out. So we come to a stop and we reset here. I am not towards the front, and we're just gonna be chilling here for a couple minutes. Behind me, I feel someone bumping my bike. I look back, and it's Dima from DC Velo. He and I have, I guess, a little bit of history because a couple races ago I crashed and he ended up getting caught in it. Yeah, he was really upset at me for a while. I guess he had some strong feelings about me being a wild rider. Yeah, not so sure about that, but yeah, he pats me on the back, and I think he might have been just tapping my bike and stuff so that I could create some space and move over so that he could slide up, I don't know, a couple more feet. My personal opinion is a little unnecessary, definitely not courteous. I don't see anyone else doing something like that, but anyway, moving on. We end up sitting there for about 2.5 minutes or so, and then we get restarted, and since I am mid-pack, the next 10 minutes of the race or so is pretty much the same of what it was before in terms of surfing wheels. On this course, at the pace that we were going, it was really hard to move up unless you did some sort of really big effort, or if you were willing to take a little bit more risk into the corners. So for better or worse, I end up just surfing wheels and trying to maintain contact with the pack. The main difference between the second 10 minutes of this race as opposed to the first 10 minutes is that it becomes much more attritional and people start popping off the back. So I end up having to close some mini gaps here and there. And there's no real way to do it efficiently. But yeah, it's one of those situations where if you let one of those mini gaps go out a little bit too far, then honestly your race could be over. What you'll see next is a few examples of what I was talking about with the mini gaps. And if you look at the body language and a quick shake of the head, I know that I immediately have to go around this guy. So you can see that I have to definitely burn a little match here. I'm up above 600 or 700 watts for a few seconds. I close that gap, and then half lap later, another one forms. So you can see there's some separation between some of these riders here. I am using these bigger guys in front of me for a draft until I need to make my move to go around. And coming up to the sharper left-hand turn, another sign that people are on their limit and about to get popped is that they are not able to hold a good line, and they get a little bit squirrely. So yeah, now I take my opportunity to go around. I have to head into the 600 and 700 watt range again. And if I had to do that over and over and over again, it's definitely not sustainable. It's definitely not sustainable for most people. At this point, we are at the back of what is left of this peloton in the race. I see Adam is here, so I give him a little bit of encouragement.
Come on. Follow me.
It definitely looks like he's hurting here, which is totally understandable because it's not an easy race, but following my wheel might be the extra small nudge of motivation to keep him going. So we close down this mini gap, and then about a lap later, another one forms. And because Adam is in front of me here, it's my job to give him a little bit of motivation verbally again.
Keep pushing, Adam, come on. Get up.
He puts in a pretty big dig to close this gap, and he definitely helps me out here, so I appreciate that. And then we use a couple quick corners to close down the gap. And once we do that, we are officially back in business, and we're ready to play. So here we are coming into 6 laps to go, and this is pretty much the first time in the entire race that the field has ballooned up a little bit like this. We will watch most of the closing 6 laps here, and we will analyze a little bit of what's going on. I'll explain to you the race situation, and I'll probably critique a couple things here and there. You can see here just off the front, there are 2 riders. One of them is Victor, who is now our teammate, but during this race, we were not necessarily working as teammates here. He is a bigger rider, and he's got a big engine, so this type of course is actually really well suited for him. Ooh, I remember this. This is my first time going this wide on this corner here, and there was a barrier. So I had to check up a little bit, but thankfully got through there pretty cleanly. For once this race, I am at least in a position where I am able to see the front of the race, but I still definitely want to move up. And I do recognize some of the riders here, so that should help me a little bit in terms of where to be.
Good job, Adam.
All right, hopping forward, 5 laps to go, 4 miles, 6K left. The situation right now is that Victor is still off the front solo. We now have Alec and 1 other rider on his wheel who are trying to bridge across. The rider on Alec's wheel is not pulling at all. He's just sitting on, and he's basically hanging on for dear life because Alec is a pretty strong rider. But I'm pretty certain that Adam Pulford from DC Velo is solo chasing. So people are starting to make moves and trying to make things happen. You can tell that the pace in the pack has come down just a touch because we're ballooned up a little bit. Jack from Redshift here is going to make a move. I see it developing, and if I was right on his wheel, I would have snapped with him and probably just latched onto his wheel. But because there was a rider separating us, I decided to use this as an opportunity to at least move up in the field. So I'm going to nitpick just a little bit on my teammate Aiden. When Jack snapped and made his move, Aiden saw that happening, but he wasn't able to snap directly onto his wheel. Since he wasn't able to do that, I feel like he should have just put no effort in and let a couple people come around, and Aiden should have been sitting in someone else's draft, instead of giving a bit of draft to a couple other guys. And I only say this because Alec is up the road. If we didn't have any teammates up the road, I don't think this is necessarily a bad position for him to be in. But yeah, just my opinion.
Follow it, Aiden. Follow.
Aiden and I here are in really good position to follow these types of surges. We have no obligation to pull or chase anything back because Alec is in that 2-man chase group up the road. And with 4 laps to go, the situation is Victor is off the front solo still. Alec is in the 2-man chase. There's a small gap to a 3-man chase, and then another small gap to where I am with Aiden. You can see the gaps are not that big at this point, but it seems like Alec just starts to shred, because right after these next 2 corners, it looks like he's got maybe a 5-second gap. And you'll see it right here when we come around the corner. Way up there. My group ends up catching the 3-man chase group, but Alec and his barnacle still have about 5 seconds on us. And Victor in beast mode has another 5 seconds or so on Alec. Alright, we are rounding the final corner. We are coming on the home stretch. We are about to hit 3 to go. Now, what you're about to see is a very, very savvy and well-timed attack by probably one of the best young riders in the area. His name is Jacob Hines. He's in this pink EF Onto kit. The pace was pretty high leading up to this, and it eased up a little bit now. And he snaps pretty hard on the right side to bridge up to Alec's chase group. Jack from Redshift was right behind Jacob, so he was able to follow this.
Push up, Aiden, push up!
Alright, so because of the move that Jacob has just made, we are all following, and it actually turns out that Jacob was able to attack through Alec and his barnacle. Obviously, I know that the barnacle has a name, I just don't know who he is. If you're watching this video, you can leave me a comment, let me know your name, but no hard feelings. I'm not trying to say anything negatively about you. You actually raced pretty well. Anyway, Alex Gass, another strong rider from NCVC, comes around and he gives me a little bit of a draft here. Jacob and Alec are driving the front pretty hard. I think there's a group of 4 that forms on this straightaway. Aiden is caught out a little bit, but he wants to make it into that group. So he has to attack across solo. And with about 2.5 laps to go, having to do that type of effort is not ideal. But he snaps pretty hard, he doesn't drag anybody with him, and he eventually makes it up into that group. And ultimately, Victor is still off the front solo. And now there's a chase group of 5 between him and my group. Alright, so we have about 1.5 laps to go. Unfortunately for the barnacle rider, he was shed from that chase group of 5. So now we have Victor up solo, followed by Chase Group of 4, which has Aiden and Alec in that group, along with Jacob Hines from EF Onto, and John Papadakis from DC Devo, who has been racing really well this year. But I found out after the race that in the Chase Group of 4, Alec was driving the front, Aiden was on his wheel, and then Jacob and John were kind of allowed to draft off of them. Tactically, that was a big error. The first thing they should have done in that group was communicate with one another and determine who was going to work for the other person. In most cases in that situation, Alec is probably going to be the workhorse, and Aiden is going to be the sprinter. So in the situation where Aiden was on Alec's wheel, Aiden should have just let Alec's wheel go. That would have forced John and Jacob to come around Aiden if they didn't want Alec to get away on his own. And then Aiden could have just sat fourth wheel pretty much the entire time until the final sprint. Unfortunately, what ended up happening was Alec was driving the front, Aiden was on his wheel, John and Jacob were able to draft off of them, and Jacob ends up getting second, and John ends up getting third. Aiden crosses the line in fourth, and Alec crosses the line in fifth, which are great results in and of itself. And even if they played it perfectly, maybe that's where they would have ended up anyway, but tactically speaking, as a team, they definitely could have forced John and Jacob to work a little bit more. Alright, once we cross the line this time, it's one lap to go. You are about to see what I consider to be a not-so-smart move by this NCVC rider behind me. He is putting himself in a very dangerous position. He's putting his front wheel in danger. I shift a little bit to the left, even though I don't have to. I do have a conscience, and I don't want to take this guy out.
You gotta get out of there, dude!
I'm sure Adam there was thrilled that he almost got taken out by that guy. I don't know. My opinion is that it's annoying and it's unnecessary. If he makes that move 10 times, he's probably going down 3 or 4 times, which I'd say is a pretty high percentage. Not only that, he's going down super hard if he goes down there, and he's taking out multiple people. And usually in races, things like that have a ripple effect. I'm gonna go back and play it again. You can see what happens. He almost takes out Adam, so I anticipate and I move a little bit to the left. Paxton is behind me, and Paxton almost gets taken out by the guy behind him as he's passing. Paxton did a really good job of keeping it upright. I've seen many people go down from less than that. I understand that in these situations, we are competing, and it might be difficult to think clearly, but come on, we can do better than that. And if I'm completely off base, you guys can let me know in the comments, but I am genuinely curious to know what you guys think about that kind of thing. I understand that it happens, but that's not the point. All right, last lap. It's crunch time and it's getting fast. I try to stay on the left side here because that is the more sheltered side from the wind. And then on the other side, the finishing straight, I try to stay on the right side and pick a line there. My position here might look okay, but I know that I'm gonna get swarmed eventually, so I wanna move up. I'm somewhere around 5th wheel, which is good, but like I anticipated, there is a little bit of swarming going on, people passing on the left. I follow this rider in the green and blue kit, and I'm about to punch it with him, but Jack has the same idea and definitely had to squeeze brakes there because I had to protect my front wheel. And then ultimately I'm able to open up my sprint after I pass Alex Gas here. John Chambers almost slides over into me, but we finished in 8th place. Not bad. Again, like I said, Alec and Aiden were already up the road, so I really had no reason to be upset with whatever placing I got today. Alright, thanks for watching. I'll have a couple more videos up sometime soon, hopefully. Oh, and Victor stayed away solo for the win. What a beast. Beep boop.